Lucy and Joshua are colleagues in the same company. Their publishing company went bankrupt, so they had to merge it with another company to survive. Lucy feels hating her colleague Joshua has to be the best part of her work because they don't get to see eye to eye, not even for a moment. The reason she hates him isn't far-fetched. In fact, according to her, they are valid reasons. The first reason is the fact that on the day she first resumed work as his colleague, she greeted him with flowers, trying to welcome him, but he responded to her without a smile. She talks about how she has never seen him smile since the first day she resumed, even up until that moment. Secondly, he is a control freak. Evidently in his meticulously organized table where everything is kept in order. To tease him, Lucy will scatter his table by putting her notepad on it, but he will notice her immediately. She narrates about him wearing the same sequence of shirts every week for work, and that irritates her. The third reason, which seems to be the most important reason to Lucy, is that after the merger, Joshua came up with a list of staff that he needed to fire, and that list consisted of all of Lucy's office friends. She makes it a duty to frustrate him every day, and he equally hates her too, which makes it easier. At work that day, they have a board meeting where their boss informs them of a new position. The position is that of a general manager, and the person who qualifies for that position will report to the boss. They wish to employ someone internally, and they tell him they will use a private hiring team. Qualifying candidates will have a presentation, and the winner will be picked. Most of the other staff already know the position in between Lucy and Joshua. As they leave the meeting, they brag about what they will make the other do when they win the position. Lucy insists she'll resign if Joshua becomes her boss. Joshua, however, claims otherwise, but Lucy tells him she will fire him. After a long argument, they conclude if any of them wins, the other will quit. That day, Lucy returns home and receives a call from her mother, who is concerned about her being single. Her mother urges her to find a companion, pointing out that she frequently mentions Joshua and implying she considers him. Lucy denies this radically. That night, Lucy gets a wet dream about Joshua. She sees him touching her on her bed, which gets her aroused. Moments later, she wakes up and gets angry about the dream. This brings another idea to her mind. She decides to seduce Joshua at work, so he would be too distracted to focus on the presentation. That day, she would win easily. That day, she dresses seductively to work, and when she reaches her office, Joshua asks her if she has a date after work. She lies that she has a date and even tells him the restaurant. To her shock, he says he has a date there too. This puts Lucy in a tight position as she didn't want him to know the intention behind her dressing. Therefore, she goes to one of her colleagues, Danny, and asks him out on a date. Danny accepts and they plan to meet that night. Before work ends, she sneaks onto Joshua's table to find out what he has in mind for their presentation, but she can't find anything. She opens his book and she sees some illegible things that she couldn't understand. She walks away before he returns. At the close of work, he asks to drive her to her date, but she refuses, claiming she could walk. However, when he reminds her she is on heels, she accepts to follow him. They take the elevator together and they argue with each other as usual. She threatens to strangle him, but as she gets nearer to him, she gets attracted to him, and they kiss. They eventually break off after the awkward moment, and he proceeds to drive her. He attempts to drive her home, but she insists she still wants to go on her date. When she tells him her date is Danny, he gets disappointed, but she decides to leave his car in the rain. During the date, Lucy talks with Danny and soon excuses herself to use the restroom, but finds Joshua outside. She assumes he was manipulating her into kissing him, but he claims she forgot her purse in her car, and that's what he came to give her. The following day, Lucy receives a flower and assumes it is from Danny at work. At work, they apologize to each other and decide to get past last night's encounter. However, their boss asks Lucy for her opinion on their team bonding day. She gives her opinion, but Joshua isn't supportive. He suggests paintball, and all their boss supports him, which gets Lucy more furious. She even imagined herself strangling Joshua. Before the paintball match, Danny asks to be on the same team as Lucy, but Joshua claims they had matched together. Joshua also notices Lucy looking pale, but she claims she's fine. During the game, the overly enthusiastic Lucy tries to win the game while Joshua saves her from being hit. After falling, they halt the game, and Lucy starts throwing up. Joshua decides to drive her home, She tries to send him off immediately but feels like vomiting again, so he stays with her. Realizing her weakness, he contacts his medically inclined brother Patrick for assistance. Patrick checks on Lucy and recommends some drugs for her. While he sits with Joshua, he reminds Joshua of his wedding ceremony and asks if Joshua would like to attend the ceremony with a +1. Lucy listens to their conversation before she falls asleep. The following day, when Lucy wakes, she sees Joshua cleaning her house. Instead of being appreciative, she assumes Joshua is doing that to have an upper edge for the job and begs him not to blackmail her with what he has done for her. He gets pissed at the statement and walks away. Later at work, Danny brings Lucy flowers and pecks her beside Joshua. When he gets to her table, she sees the same type of flower that someone delivered to her house earlier and realizes the flower was from Joshua, not from Danny. She tries to apologize to Joshua for how she was treated him and promises to do anything to make it up, even if it means attending his brother's wedding. She takes him into a storeroom and attempts to kiss him, but he stops her, asking her to meet Danny and kiss him first. Joshua explains he doesn't want to be an experiment before she finds her true love. That night, as Joshua had suggested, Lucy meets with Danny and kisses him. However, she feels Joshua had done it better, so she returns to him that night. He takes her inside the house while they make out, but as they are about to get intimate, he stops her and says no. She gets furious, wondering if he's playing her, and walks away. She meets with Danny later and explains to him that they aren't compatible for a relationship. Eventually, they drive to the wedding. Joshua tells Lucy about his family and how his father, Anthony, isn't proud of him because he isn't a doctor like his siblings. They arrive at the hotel, but there is just one room, leaving them no choice. They stay in the room where they eventually have their first intimacy. After their fun time, he confesses to her that he never hated her, and also tells her that the illegible words that she saw in his jotter are the sign words he writes whenever he wishes to kiss her at work. Lucy also confesses about the false date with Danny that night. The following day, Lucy meets Joshua's mother, who is happy to meet her. She notices Joshua isn't comfortable at the wedding. Later, Lucy meets with the bride, Mindy, who reveals to her that she was with Joshua for a year before she met Patrick. This makes Lucy feel uncomfortable. She meets Joshua, who talks about his hard times at home because he isn't a doctor, and he is nothing compared to Patrick. Later, Anthony shows the same sentiment when he gives his speech at the wedding. He talks about how Patrick never made a bad choice and has brought the best partner. When Lucy returns, she finds Anthony berating Joshua for slacking off at the office, accusing him of behaving like a slave and mishandling an intern. Lucy feels unjust for Joshua, so she confronts Anthony and tells him how noble and important Joshua's work is in the office. While that puts up an awkward scene, Lucy leaves the party with Joshua, who appreciates her for seeing him as a man rather than just a nightstand material, a sentiment he hasn't experienced with other women. They reaffirm their relationship with each other and have a joyful weekend together. In the next scene, as they resume work, Lucy overhears their male boss, Richard, telling Joshua to secure the position because he prefers not to work with women. He asks if Joshua needs any help, but Joshua insists he has a plan. Lucy assumes getting under her pants has been his plan, and she gets pissed at him, so she calls Danny and confides in him. Lucy starts giving Joshua attitude, and they get into an argument in the office. Days before the presentation, Joshua is absent from work. On the day of the presentation, Lucy does her best but prepares to fail. Lucy meets her female boss, Helena, who is proud of her and gives her a gift for her great efforts. Moments later, Lucy walks to the boardroom and sees everyone congratulating Joshua, knowing that Joshua has secured the position. Lucy congratulates him too. Turns out that Joshua has secured a position at another workplace and tells Lucy the best person for the position is her. Richard gets pissed at Joshua, who doesn't care. The couple kiss each other, and she apologizes for how she had reacted. She wonders why he didn't tell her, but Helena says she asked him not to say it because competing with Joshua puts her on her toes. In the next scene, Lucy is seen arguing on the phone about work. Turns out that she is talking to Joshua as they go on a date after work. They kiss as the movie ends. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Leave a like to help the channel out. Also leave a comment if you'd like us to recap your favorite movie. Thanks for watching.